Brazil has joined several of its South American neighbors in electing a leftist to lead the country's policy direction for the next governmental term. Several analysts are calling the return of Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva as a vote for continuing democracy in Brazil as the change of leadership gets underway following a tense few days in the aftermath of Sunday's runoff results. On Sunday night, Lula, as he is known, addressed Brazilians in a speech filled with gratitude and hopes for the future of the country.
I'm here to govern this country in a very difficult situation, but I have faith in God. With the help of the people, we're going to find a way out so this country could live democratically and with harmonies, and to establish peace among families and leaders so people can build the world that we need here in Brazil.
For his part, outgoing President Jair Bolsonaro stayed silent, refusing for days to concede his 49% to 51% electoral defeat. Bolsonaro's supporters took to the streets following his loss, blocking roads outside the country's main airport in Sao Paulo, causing mass flight cancellations at the Guarulhos airport. The protests spread to many of Brazil's 27 states, with main routes into Rio de Janeiro also blocked. On Monday night, a Supreme Court judge ordered, quote, the immediate clearing of highways and public roads and gave police free rein to take the necessary measures to give effect to that order. However, the protesters were undeterred. On Tuesday, police broke up at least 200 demonstrations which had erupted across the country. Al Jazeera reported that Brazil's federal highway police counted over 320 road blockages in 26 states, as truckers used their massive vehicles to immobilize traffic, declaring their support for the losing side. As the chaos unfolded across Brazil, former President Bolsonaro maintained his silence, prompting fears among some political analysts and others in the international diplomatic community that there might be plans afoot to resist the transition of power, especially as for months prior, the authoritarian leader had been alleging that the election would be fraudulent, engaging in conspiracy theories about the election's credibility, and signaling that he would not accept the outcome. The alacrity of United States President Joe Biden and Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau to congratulate Lula's victory and recognize him as the next rightful leader of the country on Sunday was seen by some to have been a proactive effort to preempt any attempt to remain in power by Bolsonaro or his supporters. The soon-to-be ex-president finally broke his silence in a public address on Tuesday, notably failing to concede defeat in his remarks that included no mention of the man who had bested him. Instead, he concentrated on thanking those who had voted in his favor and appealed to protesters to remain peaceful.
The current popular movements are the result of indignation and the feeling of injustice of how the electoral process was carried out. Peaceful demonstrations will always be welcomed, but our methods cannot be like those of the left, which have always harmed the population.
Bolsonaro also promised to follow the Constitution and authorized his chief of staff, Ciro Nogueira, to begin the transition process with representatives from Lula's side. It was those instructions which Brazil's Supreme Court seized upon to conclude that, despite not explicitly conceding, Bolsonaro had indeed automatically recognized the result of the election. The court issued a statement to that effect shortly after Bolsonaro had concluded his remarks. Lula returns to the presidency after demitting office in 2010, having served for 7 years as Brazil's 35th president. In 2018, the year Bolsonaro was elected into office, Lula was imprisoned on corruption charges, but was freed after 18 months when those convictions were thrown out. The 2-month transition of power in Brazil now underway will culminate with Lula's swearing in on January 1st, 2023.